Okay, so I'm going to try to go through real quick in Inkscape how to adjust the tabs. The ones that we're going to look at today is changing from the 0.21 actual, which is up here, which is what this was designed for, to a 0.25 actual. So I'm just going to stick this over here because I kind of like to have it handy so I know, so I remember what I'm looking at. Yeah, that's not going to work. That's not going to show up. Okay, that'll just be on my end. In Inkscape, and I am using the most recent version of Inkscape 0.92, there is a little trick that I learned that saved me so much. Well, I guess it didn't save me the pain and heartache because I already went through it, but when you measure with the measuring tool, okay, and let's say I'm going to measure from here to here. I'm measuring these 2 points, the distance here, correct? When you use a stroke width in Inkscape, Inkscape can either count the width of that stroke in the measurement or ignore the width of that stroke. So when I go over here and I say I want that width to be 0.01 inches, well, if I change that width to be 1 inch, it's going to affect the measurement one way, or there's a setting I can set so that it says don't worry about that, just measure where the center of that line is. So you need to know where that's at because that is absolutely crucial when you're trying to play with dimensions in Inkscape. So I went into Edit, Preferences, or Shift Control P. Up here on Tools, highlight Tools, and it says Bounding Box to use. You want to use the geometric bounding box. That's going to keep your measurements independent of whatever stroke width you're using. So you can change the stroke width so it's easier to see, and you can be assured that it does not affect the final dimension. So okay, back to what we're trying to measure today. So we need to change from 0.21 to 0.25. I'm going to measure the width of this slot here. It is 0.197. That dimension does not match, obviously, our 0.21 that we started with. That's because that's adjusted for kerf. So I'm not going to worry about kerf right now for my testing. I am just going to make the change of 0.04 up. When we cut out these small pieces, then you can then you can test it, see if the kerf is still right, if you need to tweak it a little bit more. But right now I'm just going to show you how to adjust for that 0.04 inches, or at least how I adjust for it. So what I do is I go in here back to Edit, Preferences, and I go down here to Behavior, and I go to Steps. I use my arrow keys all the time because my hand isn't all that steady. It's just super helpful. It's also to have them at a set dimension. So I can change the arrow keys to move by 0.02 inches. And the reason I picked 0.02 is because if I go 0.02 one side, 0.02 the other, I have increased my overall width by my 0.04 inches, and I've still maintained center. So that's how I like to set that up. We're going to leave that dimension there for now. Switch over here to this Edit node, grab what I want to edit, highlight the two nodes that I want to edit, use my arrow key up to move them up, use my arrow key down to move them down, and I have just increased the width of that slot. If I go back to this measurement, you'll now see that it's 0.04 inches wider than it was to start with. To adjust the slot, you generally won't need to change this length unless you want to. So that should be a good starting place for a change in the slot adjustment. For the tabs, if you don't adjust the length of the slot up here, you don't need to worry about this here, but you do need to make this a little bit longer, and that's because your width of your material is going to stick out farther. So we're going to do the same thing over here. We're going to measure across this way. And no, that measurement doesn't really matter, but I do need this to go 0.04 inches towards that side of the screen. So I just want to double check that when I do that. Highlight those, and this time I'm going to hit the arrow key twice. Go back to my measurement, 0.792. Okay, so I have increased that depth of the tab to account for the wider material. Now I need to increase the width of my notch. So I'm going to take a measurement here, highlight my nodes, go up 1, go down 1, recheck my measurement, 0.04. So I've just adjusted the test pieces to be 0.04 inches larger to accommodate that much thicker material. This is not going to be perfect the first time you cut it. The kerf for a thicker material is going to be different than it is for a thinner material. You might need more power to get through it. The material might burn away more, it might burn away less. Use this to test, to see if these dimensions work. I could do another video to show you how to get these dimensions into your larger design, but this is the step-by-step of how I tweak these to come up with these lots of little tables. So I've got plenty of these lying around, but they help me figure out the details before I cut big pieces. So hope that helps. Thank you.